So I'm going to open this meeting. It's the work session of the Eugene District 4J School Board of Directors. I'm going to call the meeting to order, the work session. It's Wednesday, April 20th, 2022, a few minutes after 4. We have all board members present. We have Laurel O'Rourke, Maya Rabasa, Judy Newman, Alicia Hayes, and Gordon Lafer. So the purpose of our work session, are you getting feedback?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it's coming over there.
Should we try to solve it, or should we just it'd be hard for the speakers?
I can't stand it.
Oh, I wonder,
Like mine.
Gordon, I put a cord behind you.
So I'm over there. Yeah,
you think that was included?
she did it. No.
Good?
No, it's
Is
still,
mine on?
it's still echoing. Let me check. Yes, please.
Okay. Is that better? No?
No.
Well.
Say something.
Is it, hello, is it coming from there?
The presentation table is not muted.
Yeah, that's, that table is it?
Yeah.
All right,
It's worse.
it's worse.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a good indicative.
Do you want us to try to keep, talking? Talking?
Yeah. Try again. Are we still getting feedback?
Okay. Yes, I think we are.
Where is it coming? Is that on?
Yes, we're working on feedback, unless you want to hear yourself twice.
Okay. Still getting feedback? Feedback?
Feedback? Yeah. Could it have anything to do with the microphone at all?
That could be, we may restart that, but we want to make sure that all of these are off first.
Say something, Judy.
Slowly but surely working. Look at you, Carrie.
I don't know.
Just let Carrie do her magic. Suddenly it's quiet. This is great.
Okay, have you tried them all? I think you did it, maybe. Okay, much better. Yay, thank you, Carrie.
Of course.
And I just also want to start out, I hope Lisa's in the room, Carrie's in the room, Jackie. Organizing this this work session has really been quite a lot of details. You know, scheduling everyone, getting all the media set up. So I just want to start by thanking you all for spending a lot of time to get it all set up. So we're excited today. We're going to be hearing brief comments from each one of the applicants for our 2 open board seats. And the plan is that I think you have the order of presentation, and we have a timer set, the blue sky timer, and it's just going to be going forward so you can sort of see your own time. We'd like you to keep between 3 and 5 minutes, and when it hits 5 minutes, I think there's a little chime that goes off, but try to wrap it up really fast if you get all the way up there, but brief is also good. So we are, again, looking forward to see everyone. Glad you could be here, and I think Carrie Delph is going to call people up in order, right?
Yes, indeed. So our first 3 speakers are going to be on Zoom. Our first 3 listed are Marianne Senhouse, Ursula Brady, and Jenny Jonak. And then moving to people who are here in person, next speaker will be Erika Rauer, followed by Christopher Ashton. We will ask the people who are here to speak, that is, their turn approaches, please come forward to one of the seats that say reserved for next speaker, so you're prepared to move up to the speaker table and provide your statement when the time comes. When you sit down and begin talking, we'll begin the forward counting timer for your 3 to 5 minutes. So the first speaker will be Marianne Senhouse, who will be coming in just a moment. Lisa's doing that now. Excuse me, Marianne Senhouse, and the timer for 3 to 5 minutes will begin now.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Marianne Senhouse, and I appreciate the opportunity to address the board tonight. I'm a working mother in a blended household. We have 4 kids, and they all attend school in this district. That means I care about what happens at the board meetings. I care about the decisions the board makes, and it won't only affect my kids, it will affect my neighbors' kids, my friends' kids. And I feel passionate about it. I have been a member of boards before. I have been a member of Daisy Chain, which is creating healthy alliances in new mothering. It's an org that provides access to pregnancy, lactation, and parenting support from qualified professionals to the community. I'm also president of Sister Circle. It's a group that seeks to empower, educate, and equip Black women in this community. I've also taken classes from LCC in the following: Intro to Nonprofit, Marketing Your Nonprofit, Writing Effective Grant Proposals, and Advanced Grant Writing. And so I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to address you, and I just wanted to enumerate my resume. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
So the speaker listed as number 2, Ursula Brady, is not here yet, so we're going to move on to number 3, Jenny Jonak. That'll be followed by Erika Rauer. Welcome, Jenny Jonak. We will start the timer for your statement now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Jenny Jonak, and I'm a parent with 3 children in the 4J schools. I've done a lot of volunteer work in the 4J schools. I've volunteered in the classrooms, served as co-chair of the PTO for 2 years at one of my children's schools, and I'm a class representative for the parent council of another. I've also served as a director or officer for numerous community nonprofits, including Square One Villages, the Eugene Public Library Foundation, the Friends of Eugene Public Library, and the Oregon Bach Festival. I've practiced law for 25 years. In my professional and charitable work, I have experience working towards change while finding common ground among different viewpoints. I applied for one of the vacant seats on the Eugene School Board because I feel passionate about education and trying to make it more equitable and accessible, particularly for students with medical, learning, and social cognitive disabilities. I have a child who was born with a rare genetic condition that involves all three of those. And I've learned so much from her about ADHD, nonverbal learning disorder, autism, social thinking, and different types of neurodiversity. I've also learned how important it is for our educational system to address children's developmental needs rather than just focusing on their behavior. I would like to see policies that favor relationship-based and developmental engagement rather than consequence-driven interventions. I would like to see the IEP process focus on children's needs proactively rather than waiting for them to fail. Social thinking should be emphasized as an important part of the educational process because long-term, this has more impact on a child's well-being, relationships, and self-esteem than just academic milestones. The pandemic has left our community in need of emotional health support. We need more mental health training and counselors in the schools, and we need tools for suicide prevention for students. More screens and computerization are not the answer. We need to make the educational system more accessible to working parents, including parents that may not have the time to take 1 or 2 hours out of their workday to drive their children to choice schools, but whose children should have an equal opportunity to attend such schools. We need to support teachers who are feeling more burnt out than ever. That includes policies that provide teachers with more autonomy and decision-making, eliminating grading or homework where it doesn't advance learning, allowing more teacher-crafted assessments versus standardized testing. I would like to see anti-bias policies and practices strengthened, as well as a more diverse multicultural curriculum. We need to know that our school policies and practices reflect these values rather than just talking about them as ideals. I would like each child to feel cherished, valued, and celebrated, even if they look, act, or think differently than their peers. It is the self-esteem and emotional health of our children that will enable them to become fulfilled adults. To me, that is real inclusion. I'm thrilled to see so many fellow parents and highly qualified community members applying. We will surely wind up having school board vacancies filled with board members who are passionate about children and education, and it's great to see our community so engaged. As for me, my children remind me every day that I am still learning so much. I don't have all the answers. What I can offer the school board is that I am ready to come with an open mind, a compassionate heart, ready to learn, ready to work hard, and ready to act in the best interests of all of our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our other speaker from this section on Zoom, Rachael Brady, is not here yet. We will come back to her later. Erika Rauer is our next speaker and will come to the table and we'll turn on the mic for you.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Erika Rauer. I am interested in the open school board position as I look for substantive ways to contribute to our community. I currently work in the nonprofit sector as executive director of Eugene Opera, and I'm raising 2 elementary-aged daughters who attend Edison Elementary. I grew up in Dover, Delaware, where I attended public schools. I hold an undergraduate degree from Swarthmore College and a master's degree from Yale University, and I've lived in Eugene for 5 years. The past 2 years of the pandemic have altered how I think about the fragility of communities and the amount of effort it takes to maintain and grow social bonds. This time has made me understand my own responsibility to serve if I want to see positive change. I'm pursuing a second master's degree in social work in order to prioritize social and emotional health outcomes in youth, as well as systems change. Art and social change have always been intertwined with my career. I spent nearly 2 decades working in arts nonprofits in New York City public schools. First as a performing arts teaching artist in the Bronx, East Harlem, and Queens, and later as director of education at New York City Opera and administrator at Carnegie Hall's Wild Music Institute. In partner schools, I observed firsthand the myriad challenges stemming from systemic inequities in our communities. I also developed a deep appreciation for the educators and staff who confront these challenges daily, and the toll that these efforts take when they seem like an individual and uphill effort. These efforts should not be undertaken alone. I see the work of the school board as an articulation and alignment of vision, an act of community representation, and a process of informed decision-making. The decisions are not always clear-cut or easy, but the public oversight and access the board provides is especially essential in maintaining avenues for democratic speech and public dissent in society. If I were serving on the school board, I would encourage us to always think first of those students and employees who are most vulnerable to systemic inequities, and to evaluate every decision for its impact on those with the least amount of power. I would encourage us to solicit and listen to underrepresented voices so that we might operate with an understanding of the practical challenges facing families right now. It would be up to us to consider the ways that schools can help meet those challenges using informed, data-driven decision-making, as well as anecdotal information from those on the ground. Systems change work is messy and complicated. It's the responsibility of upper-level administrators and the local school board to take the broader vantage point. This means doing everything possible to distribute resources, both financial and human, more equitably so that schools can supplement some of the gaps created in our society. This includes access to services like counseling, arts education, sports, library services, information technology, STEM, and many other assets that are often unequally distributed and accessible only to those with private resources. As a collaborator and member of the board, I would offer creative thinking and problem-solving skills. I would regularly ask the questions why and why not of decisions and engage in careful deliberation before making key decisions. Finally, I would do my best to bring collegiality and thoughtfulness to our collaborative process. I don't believe that seeing things differently means we cannot find commonality. As an arts educator and administrator, I'm used to making something from nothing and of never having quite enough resources or money. Yet the arts teach us that there is always a way to contribute meaningfully within existing constraints. My career track record as a fundraiser, budget manager, negotiator, and producer prove that much is possible in seemingly impossible situations. In the face of many challenges, pandemic recovery, racial injustice, political divisiveness, global tragedy, and an epidemic of existential isolation, I would do my best to bring optimism, energy, hope, determination, and persistence to the board. I would invest in community cohesion and healing after these difficult years we have shared. I believe I can offer a meaningful contribution to your ongoing efforts. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Christopher Ashton, followed by Jeff Krebs and then Christiana.
I feel like many of us are competing with how many children we have in the district. I have 4. They all attend school here in the district, 3 different schools. And 3 to 5 minutes is not very long to communicate why I'm your guy. So here I go. A few weeks ago, I sat in front of a middle school principal who had me writing a death threat one student conveyed to another. That principal also had in writing from the same student a paper that read, quote, "My hospital bills will be as expensive as your father's drug habit." This after the same student called his target racially insensitive names and promised to perform sexual acts on him. I respectfully reminded this principal they were a mandatory reporter and expressed my disbelief that these issues had not been reported to the authorities. All of this was done in front of the district's female security person, and sadly the conversation that followed was full of excuses. If our administrators don't take accountability for their actions, why would our teachers? Why would our students? If this happens in one 4J school, it happens in others. The student who made these horrific threats wasn't disciplined at all. No detention, no suspension, nothing. It begs the question, are we a lawless school district? And I insist that these issues must change. There are 4 things I want to emphasize today. First, we need clearly communicated rules and consequences for students, teachers, and administrators. Our school district must provide boundaries so kids can learn and feel safe. In every athletic event I am aware of, there are lines drawn. And when someone goes outside of those lines, there are consequences. As a parent of 4 children in 3 different 4J schools, I'm here to tell you those lines have not been drawn, nor have they been communicated. Issue number 2. My oldest daughter is a 16-year-old high school junior who excels academically. We could call her special needs. During her senior year, most of the classes she'll take will be at the University of Oregon. Why don't our schools offer classes that will satisfy the demands of our academically inclined students who sit 2 standard deviations from the mean? As a father, do I want my daughter surrounded by frat boys and other university influences? Of course not. I've done the research, and in 4J, I have no other option. Does that help my daughter feel safe and learn? I seriously doubt it. And how about our underserved students who sit on the other side of special needs? They lack quality support because the pay is too low to hire candidates who are willing to help these handicapped children, including help them go to the bathroom. $16 an hour does not attract top talent or pay bills. Issue number 3, for years I've watched homeless camps be within eyesight of 4J schools. I don't understand this, and I do not support this. And I ask myself the question, who is working with community leaders to make sure this stops and does not happen again? Homeless camps do not help kids learn or feel safe. 4th, the financial waste I see in this district is frightening. We allow kids from affluent homes to eat free meals 5 times a week. I have a very close friend whose household income exceeds $200,000 a year. He paid cash for his home. He owns 2 lavish cars with no debt, yet his children eat free 5 meals a week. Something about that math does not make sense. We hang tampon dispensers in all boys' bathroom stalls throughout the district. That is not a misprint. We hang tampon dispensers in all boys' bathrooms throughout the district. Meanwhile, we have a massive lack of significant mental health experts, and sadly, too many students committing suicide. We have class sizes that are too large, teachers that are totally overwhelmed, and 1,000 other things that will be left unsaid due to time that money should first be spent on. I quote from an article written a few years ago from Oregon Live, quote, Oregon is allowing low-income students to fall further behind their counterparts faster than 48 other states. In 2015, Oregon's low-income 4th and 8th graders were 9 percentage points further behind their peers. Only Washington State had a worse increase in the achievement gap, separating the 2 groups. We need to spend our money more wisely to help children learn and feel safe. I'm a problem solver. I have personal and professional experience in this area. Like all districts, there are problems to be solved. Putting me on the board will provide a voice who is committed to solving problems the right way, on budget, on time, and in a manner that helps children learn and feel safe. I'm aware of the time. According to the US News and World Report, in 2022, Oregon schools ranked as having the 40th best in the country. Our school safety rating is 39th in the country. In an administration-led study done recently at a middle school in the district, 30% of the students who responded say they do not feel safe coming to school every day. How in the world can we expect kids to learn when they don't even feel safe when they walk in the door? And more importantly, who's going to address this? The process of improving Oregon schools begins 1 student, 1 classroom, 1 school, and 1 district at a time. And every dollar counts. So let's make 4J that district. Or if we want to have what we have, and we'll continue to do what we've done. I readily acknowledge I don't know all the issues that the board faces. I readily acknowledge that I don't know the total sphere of influence that the board has. But I'm here to learn and make a difference. As you've learned, I don't sugarcoat things, because I believe no one or no thing improves unless they look in the mirror, recognize their weaknesses, and attack them. Regarding this, I was stunned when I pulled up the 414-page 2020-2021 4J district budget. Not only could I not get through it, I couldn't understand it, and what I did read came off as a public relations ploy to make things look much, much better than they really are.
I have a lot of interviews to go through. Thank you for your time.
Okay?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ashton.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jeff Krebs, followed by Chris Young and Rachael Anderson.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here and address the board. My name is Jeff Krebs, and if we are having a battle for the number of kids, I do have 5 children. But I applied for this position because I am very passionate about the opportunity for children to feel included, to feel like they have friends, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to feel a part of something. For me, family is one of the most important things in my life, as I'm sure it is for most of us. And there's many students that attend 4J schools that don't feel that love and that acceptance from their homes. And it gives the schools an opportunity to create that bond, to create that feeling of acceptance and that feeling of love. I am an attorney. I have worked in family law and also in estate planning. And I feel that my skills in these areas will help me be an effective board member. As an attorney, we are trained to listen to both sides of a problem or a disagreement, and to be able to use our analytical thinking and skills to find a solution to solve that problem. I am very skilled at hearing different sides and being able to find a solution that everyone can at least accept. My wife sometimes gets frustrated with me as she'll voice displeasure of something or that somebody did, and I'll often say, well, let's look at the other side. How do they feel? And so I feel that that skill will serve the board well, to be able to look at all sides and to find common ground, find a way to solve those issues. I know that serving on a board also requires congeniality. I like people, I like getting to know others, and working together to find solutions that will benefit all of the students in the 4J School District. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now Christiane is coming up, and will be followed by Rachael Anderson and Edgar Ted.
Good evening, 4J School Board. My name is Chris Young. Start with, let's see. I'm at the University of Oregon, first generation Pacific Islander. I have two kids, one at Buena Vista, one at Monroe. And my son, Lincoln, comes home every day and talks about school and shares things, and I just feel like I can help. So what do? I come with, I guess what sets me apart from the different candidates, and I agree with what they're saying, I understand. I have 8 years of teaching high school English and special education. Through those different lenses, I'm able to see different things, but I think, I don't know, working with different groups on campus, I think, is what really has helped me see things in these strategy groups. Again, I work with the athletic department, student athletes, but I also work with diversity, equity, inclusion, and that's my favorite part. And let's see. I think what sets me apart with everything that I said is I went to 14 different schools before I went to the University of Oregon. My parents were from Samoa, so my dad got construction work, and so we moved around. And through that experience, I really understand, like, I became a teacher. Why? Because I wanted to help people. Because naturally, I fell through these cracks. And again, being on this side, I think I can help identify those things and address some things from a new and fresh perspective, with respect to what we're trying to do. And I think let's see, if there's anything else I can say. Yeah, I'm just thankful to be here. Thank you for the work we've done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Rachael Anderson present?
Yes, she is.
Thank you. Rachel Anderson is coming up. She'll be followed by Keerti Kauffman, and then Tom Liberto, followed by Deborah Dailey.
Good afternoon, school board. So my name is Rachael Anderson. I am a local business owner here in town. I am an insurance agent for Country Financial. We are very strongly committed to building communities around us. And being that I have two children, young children, 7 and 8, never have children close in age like that. It's the dumbest idea I've ever done. They are at Will Gillespie. But who I am first and foremost before I get to them, is I was born and raised here. My whole life has been spent in the Eugene Springfield area. Done a ton of traveling, but I know that this is a place for me, for my family. There is incredible diversity in my family. So many different colors, shapes, sizes, species in my family. We've learned to love everybody as they are and as they come to us. I graduated from North Eugene High School, a 4J school. I went to Lane Community College, got my transfer degree, and went to Oregon State. Please don't hate. Okay. And I had my Bachelor's of Science in Zoology. I also grew up during the Thurston shooting. My friends were in that cafeteria. My very first boyfriend, Jake Riker, is the one who tackled the shooting. And my best friend was shot. I'm close to this. I'm close to our community, I'm close to our schools. My children, my son, my oldest, he has ADHD, ODD, and as well as anxiety. So I actually have spent the first 2 years of his schooling holding his hand every single day in the school. I've been there every day. My daughter is also at the school. She actually started kindergarten quarantined. She had to experience her very first schooling through a screen. It's exciting to see them at school again without their masks and seeing their friends' faces for the first time, not through a screen. My children witnessed domestic assault. They have gone through therapy. We have gone through interactive play therapy with both of them and have graduated with flying colors, but that doesn't mean it's over. The trauma will last for years. It's something you have to work through. It just takes tenacity with children. What I'd really like to focus on, however, is the fact that these children, especially my daughter, there are going to be social repercussions, emotional repercussions, educational repercussions that we're all seeing right now. And I would love to be able to be more hands-on about that. I'm already on a board. I'm on the Shelton McMurphy Johnson board. I am the executive secretary there. We all love our house on the hill, don't we? I'm part of a BNI group. I am the president of my BNI group. I just very strongly believe in community involvement, especially when raising children. And I would very much like the opportunity to be able to come in and help. I bring a lot of energy, just saying. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Keerti Kauffman, and before we begin, Ms. Kauffman, can I adjust the screen?
Yes, I'm short. Welcome to my role in Zoom. Hi
Hi everyone, my name is Keerti Hasija Kauffman. I have a fun last name that actually has a space in the hyphen. I'm a mom of only 2 4Jers, so I'm not in competition. 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, go Adams Alligators. I'm applying to the 4J school board because I have been brought up and worked in schools communities my entire life. They've shaped my thinking, my worldview, my connections to the outside world, and have been some of my greatest champions and supports still. And I'd love to be able to contribute to building that kind of a learning community and culture for my kids here. On the CV side of things, I've been working as an international education and development specialist for 20 years, now with work in more than 30 countries, worked many of them in districts and public sector programming. A graduate degree in international education training. I love this profession, I love this field, as you can tell, because why else would I do this lovely job that you guys are doing in all parts of the world. On the personal side of things, although I've been here for a decade, I was raised in the faraway lands from the East Coast, born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina, child of immigrants, somewhat of your classic not performing to our potential student, with some hindsight neurodivergences that weren't undiagnosed at the time. Fast forward a few years, I graduated a successful product of the public education system. Fast forward a few more decades, I'm still that kid in her 40s who goes back in his regular lunch dates with my high school principal and teachers. My elementary school art teacher was at my wedding. Long story short is in the interim years while I was in school there, the school's community not just became a second home for me, it became a second home for my family. And I firmly believe this was through a deliberate culture of inquiry and a connected mindset ideology that was practiced all the way from the top through every level of the system. South Carolina has obviously dramatically changed culturally, politically since I've lived there. I think the whole world has at this point, but I think there's lessons and there's experience that I'd love to have emulated both for my children and both with a diverse growing community here in Eugene. I'm not gonna lie, I've been here for about a decade. I moved here from Washington, D.C. I've, like I said, traveled to more than 50 countries. This was probably one of the largest and greatest cultural shifts I've ever had to experience. It's not been the easiest transition for me as a woman of color to find community and connections within cultural institutions here in Eugene. But I think I owe it to my children, and I come from a family that stands up for communities who can't for themselves to do what I can to help develop those kinds of learning experiences for the children. We're growing as a community of just diverse peoples and cultures and mindsets and learning styles, and I feel like we're in a world that can't be isolated anymore. We have great resources with the University of Oregon. We have great resources with practitioners. Some of my greatest champions here in terms of friends have been working in the education system here. I feel like if there's anything I can contribute both from a professional and personal experience and with bringing lessons and practices from what's happening around the world in terms of policy and development, that can inform what's happening here in Eugene. I think it is my duty absolutely to be able to do that, both for my children. I have these lovely Indian American kids now. It's very strange for me to say that. Born and bred Eugenians, we're gonna be here forever, much as I had convinced myself I wasn't for a while in there. But I wanna create a home for them that has given me the supports that is built on a foundation of equity, that is built on a real foundation of diversity, not just in a checklist. It's a community that, regardless of what it looks like, is built on a structure that actually supports real learning, real inquiry, real connections to a larger world, and drives real opportunity for students in whatever kind of fields and professions they want to look to developing after their schooling is set there. So I think that regardless of what your decisions are with the board, I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you and contributing in any manner I can to helping contribute anything I could to the system here. So I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you and look forward to getting to know you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, our candidate is Liberto, followed by Deborah Dailey, then Kate Friesen, then Pamela Leuck.
Hello, board directors and Superintendent Erika. I'm Liberto. and thanks for this opportunity to speak to you. I'd like to answer the question maybe some of you were asked when you decided to volunteer. What inspired you to get on the board? Or maybe what were you thinking? I realize this job isn't easy, so please let me explain what I'm thinking. My involvement in education isn't something new to me. Until retiring in 2018, I was in classrooms for 39 years. I was a classified bilingual instructional aide for 3 years and a high school English, social studies, and Spanish teacher in California for 5 years before arriving in Eugene. I was lucky to be hired as the first Spanish immersion students arrived at Monroe Middle School. At the time, 4J was a national leader in innovation, and I saw this during my first few days on the job. I was astonished at the creative courses and programs district folks and my new colleagues had put together. Not everything was perfect here by any means, but it was obvious that District 4J was eager to support creative educators to offer what was best for kids. Only 4 years later, I had the misfortune to see Measure 5 start to wear away what we had. Year after year, we saw bigger classes, higher caseloads, classified employees being asked to do much more with less FTE, fewer licensed librarians and nurses, fewer choices for students, the erosion of school infrastructure, and many other declines that forced districts to make excruciating choices. When we started to see these declines statewide, we also saw a push from groups with little background in education who believed they knew better than people who worked in schools. We started to hear calls to work smarter, or you need to run schools like a business, and pushes for vouchers, attacks on employees, and corporate takeovers of curriculum and assessment. This trend still concerns me, but I am encouraged by what I see as the beginnings of a pushback here in our state and locally. Oregon is starting to see some funding flow back towards schools. And our district is still full of creative minds working at all levels, ready and willing to collaborate to improve how we serve our students. We are starting to understand the value of listening better to our stakeholders, especially our historically marginalized communities, and marshaling our talent to solve challenges such as the following. How can we ensure that all our kids are getting what they need to be successful? What does that look like for kids struggling with mental health? Kids whose native language is not English, kids of color, LGBTQ kids, physically challenged kids, and students with 504s or IEPs. How can we attract and retain good teachers, especially teachers of color, to do this challenging work? How can we offer a rich curriculum that includes art, music, social studies, dance, drama, and CTE? One that keeps kids engaged in school and prepares them with the skills to think, contribute, and enjoy life. And how can we all return completely from this wretched virus? I believe the addition of a board member with extensive classroom experience would be quite valuable at this critical point. I've been a 4J parent, just one, and have taught through many educational restructurings and movements and have seen their effects, the successful ones and those that wasted time and precious resources. But when I don't know an answer, I pledge to ask for help from all sources, parents, our staff and community, and our students to get the information we need to make the right decision for kids. I care greatly for the students and families of our district, and I would be honored to be chosen to help guide 4J. That's what I'm thinking. Thank you for considering me.
Thank you. Thank you. The next candidate is Deborah Dailey, followed by Friesen, and then Pamela Leuck.
Old school. Thanks for so much for having us, and I just want to say how I just feel so excited to know that 37 people are applying. It just gives me such a deep sense of hope. So thank you. So how did I get here? I retired a few years ago. I'm always asking myself and reflecting, how can I engage? How can I support? And as I observe what's going around in the country and locally, especially around education, I thought, well, locally is my school district. And that's how I can support. I can support students, youth, families here at home in our community. I was not going to step back into the classroom or any position in 4J. But I started thinking that I could commit to going to the board meetings. I used to turn on KRBM, I used to come to some of the meetings, and I used to present once in a while through my McKinney-Vento program that I ran here at the district. So when I got clicking around on the website, I saw these 2 openings and I said, yeah, this is something I have time for, passion for, experience for. So yes, I'll put my application in. Why do I want to serve? First thing, and this is deep, I deeply, deeply believe in public education. Deeply. Secondly, again, considering the issues that students have faced or are facing or are going to face, I think that school districts need to be like this solid anchor for them. And they need to be there to offer the educational opportunities. They need a variety of opportunities, accessibilities, like I see like these little tools in a toolbox to take with them. And you know, just the supports in place so that they can feel like happy and free to come to school. That's what I want in the end. I have extensive, I was thinking decades, over decades, knowledge and experience working with students and family that are under-resourced. I've supported students in special ed, in ELD, back when it was not a certified position. Behavior support, I led PBIS for years at a school, and most recently as the district's McKinney-Vento homeless student liaison. I identified up to 800 students every year without stable housing, including 150 that were unaccompanied youth. Since my semi-retirement, I did join St. Vincent de Paul to work at the youth house for them as a youth support specialist. And basically I provided wraparound services to qualify to be in that program, which gives the students or the youth a place to live and these wraparound services. They need to be homeless and they need to identify as female. So once they got settled, I was just like zoned in and zoomed in and all about school. Where are you going? What are you doing? What do you need? You know, so it was just a natural, great fit. So I was there for over 2 years. In addition, I was a voting member on the Lane County Poverty and Homeless Board. I worked endlessly on the homeless youth support work group, also for the county. I spent quite a bit of time on an advisory position board for First Place Family Center. So I have some experiences on the board. I've presented, I've trained, and I've worked and coordinated with many community members. So Looking Glass, Rotary Club, faith-based organizations. So throughout that whole time as the McKinney-Vento student liaison, I spent a lot of time with community members. So I have a lot of connections and I love working with the community. I was also an instrumental part in the launch of the 15th Night Initiative. I'm going to turn this back to you because I'm over time, sorry. And I do want to take a minute just to thank you as a board. I have not been connected, and I can't imagine how hard these last few years have been. So thanks for the work that you've done. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Friesen, followed by Pamela Leuck, and then Jacon Taylor.
Hello. I'm sorry I don't envy you your evening today, looking at your schedule. It's gonna be a long day, so thank you for being here and listening to all of this. I had a speech written down, and then after listening to the other 10 speakers, I decided to throw it out. There are so many qualified people who've come from the community to help the school board, which is wonderful. And it had me back there questioning why I'm here by comparison. And the reality is I'm a parent of 3 children, each one in different schools, elementary, middle, and high school. I'm a parent in West Eugene. I don't believe there's been anybody representative of West Eugene on the school board in quite a long time. I saw on the list of people I knew who were applying for this position, there are at least 2 other West Eugene people I knew, which was great. When I hear what's happening at other schools, whether it's Sheldon or North or South, I think, my gosh, we don't have that at Churchill. Why don't we have that? And I'm struck by the disparity within our own community. Why is it that 4 or 5 high schools don't have the same things? Why is it that the kids over in the Sheldon area get so much more than we get? Which is very frustrating, to say the least, particularly for my children. I have one child who, there's not enough hours in the day for the things that she wants to learn. I have the other child who's just desperate to socialize constantly. And then I have another one who's struggling academically. We are really, I would say our family is very representative of the average family. We are representative of the moderate Eugenian. There seems to be so many extremes in both directions. We are neither one way or the other, we are just simply moderate. We are realists, we try to be good people, and we try to do the best for our children and our community. I have a degree in writing, and I went into human resources, go figure. So I have been in a position where I have to put my emotions aside and make a decision for the greater good, for the company, for the person, what have you. I am first and foremost a realist, which I know can be very frustrating for people because I have a very tense personality, but I also get things done. I'm not afraid to say the difficult thing that needs to be said, if it means we're gonna get to the point and get things done. I completely understand why we need to have all this focus on inclusion and equity because there is such a disparity. I see it among families we know. I go out of my way to meet people who are different from us, who maybe speak a different language or have a different background, different religion, what have you. The more diverse, the more interesting. And I'm always interested to see how their kids are doing. What's this like for your child? I know during the online education program, it was a nightmare for us. I am not a teacher, never been a teacher. We've had some wonderful teachers out there and they've done their best. And I think that serving on the board is an opportunity to help the teachers do their job as successfully as they can and give them the tools that they need. I consider the teachers and the administrators the experts in education. I am not an expert. And I don't believe the role of a school board should be the experts. I think that the role of the school board should be the community liaison between the schools and the families. The school board should facilitate the wants and needs. We have friends who are leaving the school district, whether they're going to private schools, homeschooling, or going to different districts because they've just been so unhappy with what's happening in the schools. And I look at this and I think this is a tragedy. I am an advocate for public education. My children go to the schools. I was a product of the Eugene School District. I think that to be a better community member, it's important to be part of the public school system. And everybody should care about how our public schools are. Even if you are the empty nester who just bought an overpriced house down the street for cash from out of state, you should care how the local public school is ranked because it affects your property value. All of these things are interconnected. And I think that just with my particular personality and my strengths, that I'm a connector. I love to collect people. I joke with the kids that I coach, because I've been coaching, oh gosh, we're almost out of time. Well, I am out of time, I'm sorry. That once you've been on my team, I've collected your mind forever. That means I'm gonna acknowledge you, I'm gonna talk to you, I'm gonna care about you. And the more people we have who do that, I think the better. Sorry, everyone, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate is Pamela Leuck, followed by Jacon Taylor, and then Thomas Weir.
Hi, good evening. I guess I'm a little bit older school. I really appreciate the time you're taking to hear the reasons why I applied for the school board positions. My name is Pamela Leuck, and I've been working in the medical field for over 40 years. I'm retiring at the end of this month. I have a countdown calendar and everything at my office. And now that I am retiring, I have always been wanting to advocate for children and have been looking for ways that I can. And when I saw the openings from the Buena Vista newsletter, I jumped on it right away. I have 3 children that have gone through the Eugene School District, and one of those was a special needs child that has ADHD and behavioral issues. We worked very closely with the Eugene School District to get her the education and the needs that she needed. And I found that the teachers and the counselors all work together for the best interest of her. And now I am raising her son. He is my grandson, and he is a 4th grader at Buena Vista. I was an empty nester for 3 years, and then I became a mom again, and I've got my little guy. We chose Buena Vista because it was, it gave him the opportunity to learn a second language and to learn in a different way than the other school right down the street from us, Bertha Holt. And so I feel like the schools have the kids' best interest in heart, and that they are all in it to give them the best education they can have. I hope to be a member of the panel to help to adapt policies and influence the district budget. I want to focus on where the money is being wasted and where it can be put to good use, with the help of boosting each child's experience. Parents will move into the district for major reasons to allow their children the best educational experience. There are also apartment dwellers that will stay in the apartments until they see which school district they want, and they will, I have seen that they will choose a home in the district that they has a good reputation and offers what their children need. Whether that be the Eugene School District, Lane County, Springfield, Bethel, Crestwell, Johnson City, or Harrisburg, I believe our goals are to offer a competitive edge so that families seriously consider living in the 4J school district when choosing their family location. The 4J has an amazing reputation at Sheldon High School and is a formidable high school, and I would like to see that good school reputation move on to the elementary and middle schools so that people will have a better outlook on the area. And it does reflect people coming in and out of the district, and I think that we can improve, and I think that we're really doing a good job where we are. I'm ready to work closely with the board members and the superintendent and the school, the staff, the children, and the parents to help 4J's School District achieve their mission, that is, that they believe that all children deserve an excellent, well-rounded education. All members of the district believe that the worth of public education and the different caring people can make for students, that all students deserve to feel safe and welcome in their school. And I really appreciate the time that you've given me to speak, and good luck on your decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see Mr. Taylor coming forward. He'll be followed by Thomas Hiura and then Carlos Sequeira, and then Danny McDiarmid.
Chair Newman, thank you for the opportunity. Board, thank you for the opportunity to present with you today. My name is Jacon Taylor, and I've grown up in Eugene. Currently, I have 3 kids in the 4J School District, 2 at Aubrey Park, 1 at Gillum, and also a graduate of the North Eugene High School. She's off in the Coast Guard now, and couldn't be more proud of her for that. It feels like an odd forum not having a dialogue, but I totally understand why we need to go this way. So let me just tell you a little bit more about myself. I work for a nonprofit. It's called the Oregon Farm Bureau. We have about 70,000 members statewide. We have about 6,500 members that are ag producers. So those are your local farmers and ranchers and things like that. Our mission sounds kind of simple. It's to serve our members. What that looks like is a lot of policy work, honestly. So that's where a lot of our effort goes into. My role is not on the policy side. My role is in support of the local county farm bureaus. We have 32 county farm bureaus that are autonomous, and my role is to support them. So that often looks like sometimes board trainings. I'm in a lot of board meetings. So we talk about good board governance, we talk about bylaws review, that sort of thing. But it can also mean getting them resources that they need to solve a local problem. And so there's a lot of collaboration that way, either with the agency groups or with local electeds, that sort of thing. Another part of my role is I'm a co-chair for one of our agriculture leadership programs. It's a pretty extensive program. Over a 5-month period, we take about 30 ag professionals each year. We spend about a week a month for 5 months. And we tour them around the state looking at the diversity of crops in the state, looking at the diversity of economies, the diversity of issues that are facing that particular industry. And the reason why I bring all this up is because we spend a lot of time helping these leaders work on understanding. Oftentimes we get to where I can articulate my point of view, hopefully quite well, but can I do the same thing with the same amount of clarity as someone that disagrees with me? Could I articulate their side of things? The reason we do this in this program is because we strongly believe that understanding is the first step to collaboration, first step towards cooperation, and through that process, obviously building down some divisions that may naturally or would have been there more organically. So I bring that up because I don't come to you with an agenda. I'm not saying, by golly, you gotta fix this, by golly, you gotta do that. The other day I was staring out my living room window, watching my neighbor unload a couch. I was gonna try to get it in his house. And I did it for about 10 minutes until I realized I've got a front door and I can walk across the street and help him. And I just think, what has happened in our communities and what certainly happened with the schools in the last 2 years, you guys have been lifting a heavy load. And so I thought, well, you know what, I could be able to help. So that's why I'm here. I'm trying to think of whatever else I was gonna say, but I don't think there was any more. So I would appreciate a vote of confidence from you guys. I would certainly love to jump in and help. I do know that you have a hard decision because there's many really, really good candidates, and I wish you all the best of luck. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Thomas Burr, is coming forward, and followed by Carla Sequeira and McDiarmid, Michelle Sue, and Scott Hall.
Thank you, Lisa, for your brief, slight speaking time accommodation. Thank you, board members. Good evening. Last time I did this, there were 15 applicants. Much has taken place since then, and I'm thrilled to be only the 15th candidate so far. In the words of Jay-Z, allow me to reintroduce myself. I'll expand on my application with some relevant experiences, unique assets and competencies, and finally, my philosophy of the board's role in our school district and community. Relevant experiences. I remember Kylie, who was in my church and a year under me at North, begging me outside the gymnasium to say the phrase, pork fried rice. When I pronounced it in exactly the accent and tone that I just did to you all, she got all huffy with me as though I had been a bad sport. She was so offended that she corrected me by saying it in the offensive accent that I will not imitate now, and stormed off. In one of the very, very few times when I was around more than one other Asian American student, I was hanging around with Ben and Seiji. We were immediately interrupted by a student who cheerfully said, "Hey, you guys all look the same." I can't tell you that my presence on the board would fundamentally dissolve these issues, but I can tell you that I'd be tirelessly committed to the fundamental strategies that we know can dissolve and eradicate this daily bigotry. I'm like a lot of the students we need to be serving in 4J because I was one 10 years ago, and that's not a drawback in my qualifications, but a strength in this moment. There are experiences that I know 4J students are dealing with in silence and shame. I've experienced parental incarceration, police violence, being the child of an immigrant, and long-term recovery from a mental health crisis. In 4J, I was cyberbullied through Snapchat and Instagram on smartphones that are similar to modern ones, just with a fewer cameras on them. I know that feeling of walking on air after a particularly inspiring class session, pulling out one of these out of my pocket to text a friend about it, and then having that energy sucked out of me because of some well-timed hostile message from someone who clearly wasn't getting their needs met. I was openly bisexual as a 4J student, and I also remember where I was standing as a Eugene Gakuen Elementary student during my first inklings that I might feel better about myself if I dressed like a woman. I did not come out as non-binary until a decade later, and my family's response led to my becoming unhoused for most of the year, around the same time that I sought this position with you. I then frustratedly ran an unfunded mayoral campaign that ended up placing second among 7 candidates, and I'm so proud of today's 4J students who are so much more accepting of gender diversity as well as the staff who give so much of themselves to be supportive. Unique assets and competencies. If you look around Oregon, such as through the Oregon School Board Members of Color Caucus, you'll find inspiring examples of communities electing non-binary directors, directors who've experienced homelessness, and of course Asian American directors. All of my research shows that Eugene has probably not elected people from any of these groups. Why not? I'm competent at speaking truth to power. I've been a polite thorn in the side of non-thorough governance because we have nothing without good process. As a 4-year CSA senator at Carleton College, I was elected to the highest non-academic governing body on campus alongside administrators, and I once turned a whole meeting around when they sought to rush through approval of lengthy planning documents that we'd only received a few minutes prior during the meeting and had no chance of reading. I think people know I have a flair for performance, but ultimately, the work of governance is in the boring and unglamorous deliberation on issues like poring over planning documents to see how we can be informed by precedent, but not necessarily bound to it. In that meeting as a senator, it didn't matter that after we took a reading period, we voted to approve the plans as we otherwise would have. It mattered that we actually did the reading and we knew what we were approving. I brought this same diligence to hiring committees for new school administrators, so I'm ready to hit the ground running on the superintendent search. I am competent as a community liaison. One criticism of the overdue Stop Asian Hate movement was not enough well-understood policy goals. Well, sometimes good practice and good procedure are good policy, and what that movement begged of non-Asians around the world was simple. See us, hear us. We're not a joke, we're not a punchline. Think of the impact you could have to have 2 directors from 2 different generations who know what it's like to endure 4J's challenges as a student of color and still graduate. Marginalized folks face barriers to winning a citywide election. They may not have the resources to do it without the power of incumbency, and they may not get that power unless they're trusted and mindfully elevated by those who have it. But I will be advocating for this district whether you choose me or not. Directors Lafer, Hayes, and Newman, I'd love to have your voice on my podcast, because just as teachers differentiate their instruction to serve diverse learning needs, the district can increase its communicative profile. Board philosophy. I'm a scholar of education. In a few months, I'll receive my Master of Science in Education Leadership from SOU's online program, where I hold a near perfect GPA 3.85. Dang that A-. This program was funded by my Gates Millennium Scholarship, which will also fund my doctoral studies in our community. My professional perspective is that while I know you all do a lot already, the board has enormous potential to take on a more active role as public officials. That means being accountable to the community through perpetual, truthful responsiveness, but that also means an active policy-making role that defends teachers' professionalism, complementing and sometimes disagreeing with central 4J office staff. School districts carry out essential decisions behind closed doors, and as the only folks that are directly elected by the public to serve the district, I believe the board is one of the best qualified bodies to do the difficult work of public policymaking, while also being in touch with the people closest to the issues on the ground. This is, after all, a time of great concern for our democracy. Thank you again for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate is Carlos Sequeira, followed by Danny McDiarmid and Michelle Sue from Scott Solomon.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Carlos Sequeira. Good afternoon, my name is Carlos Sequeira, and I would be delighted to join this board to serve our community, and I would like to spend this next 3 to 5 minutes that I have with you sharing a little bit about my professional and personal background, so you can get an idea how I can contribute to the leadership of this body. I can relate at a personal level with the families, the students, and the teachers in this community. I've made Eugene my home for now 10 years, and I love the diversity, the culture, the beliefs, ideas, and experiences here in Eugene. I attended a K-12 school very similar to the immersion schools we have in this district. I was a language learner, similarly to hundreds of students that attend our schools in Eugene. So I can relate with the parents and the students' experiences navigating the school system. I also attended a community college, very similar like Lane Community College. The one I attended was in Vancouver, Washington. So I understand the need and the moral imperative to provide our high school students with the knowledge and the skills necessary to succeed in a post-secondary career and education. I also attended a private university for my undergrad studies, George Fox University, so I can relate with the families who are invested heavily in their efforts to ensure that our students come out prepared to navigate the education systems and rigor of highly competitive private institutions. And I can also relate with families and students who choose to send their high school graduates to state universities, as I got my higher education degrees from Oregon State University and Portland State University and the University of Oregon. And I am the proud dad of 2 amazing young women who are graduating this year, one with a humanities degrees in anthropology from Oregon State University, and my youngest one with an engineering degree from Oregon State University. So I can relate with the families and the students who are striving in this day and age to make something for themselves and navigate while navigating the complexities of our education system. These last 6 years at Lane Education Service District, I have been working closely with amazing colleagues serving our children in life skills classrooms at our Westmoreland campus, as well as similar teachers in classroom across this schools in Eugene School District. I know this does not make me an expert in special education, but I'm keenly aware of their needs after working closely with folks who know their craft and have passion for some of our most vulnerable students. And finally, final thoughts. I just want to share with you my hopes and aspiration for this board, whether I get appointed for this position or not. I believe that together we can set a vision for our community, for our teachers, for our parents, where all students, staff, and the parent community feel like they belong. I believe that together we can make this community a better place. Let's pretend for a moment that we had nothing to do with the complexities of our current educational system that our students and our families have to navigate. The polarization, the finger pointing, the name calling, the anger and the frustration and disappointment that you and I and our parents are experiencing in our community. I say, mine is an invitation to gaze across the horizon of time and imagine the incredible life and joy-giving opportunities that are in store once we as a community arrive at our final destination, that place that we dream for ourselves and for our students. I want to be a part of that, and I believe that we can do that together. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are halfway through and going to take a brief break. Chair, do you have a time when you want to resume?
It's 2:21, why don't we take about 9 minutes? 9 minutes, I guess.
It's 2:21 somewhere.
It's 5:21.
In
so-
Hawaii.
Anyhow, we'll come back at 5:30.
It's okay, we're all in the same boat. I need one of the leases by
down to some with my sister, and with my sister.
Oh, we're ready to start again. Thanks for everyone respecting the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. For anybody who has newly arrived, board candidates are being called forward one by one. When you see that you're among the next few people to speak, it's great if you can come forward and sit in one of the seats that says reserved for next speaker, so we can transition smoothly and easily to the next person to speak at the right time. So our next few speakers will be Danny McDiarmid, followed by Michelle Sue, Scott Fellman, Jacqueline Hall, and Danny Crowley. So Danny McDiarmid, present. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Danny McDiarmid. Got an email from my son's school. He just started at Poplar Park Middle School and saw the opportunity arise. And yeah, I just wanted to be a part of it and learn about how everything works in the school district that he is attending. He just started his first day of in-school class on the 28th of March and got sick on the 30th. And I was like, all right, you know, that's the way it's supposed to be. And it was the normal cold this time. All right, okay, so let's get to it. And my experience I have in board management issues is I would say I was an investigator for San Jose Masonic Lodge number 10. That's in California. Did that for about 12, 13 years. I investigate people that want to join a fraternity. I have experience with the judicial branch in the state of California since 2001 to 2020. The family law division dealt a lot with custody and visitation issues. Moved here in 2020 in June. I didn't get a job until August, and now I'm in the executive branch working down the street at the child support division as a child support caseworker. Very interested in everything that would potential offer to be on board to learn more about this branch of the government. I figure it's like the trifecta. I get in. And someone smart told me once, you know, when you're giving a speech before people, you want to be honest, be brief and be seated, but I'm already seated, so I just want to thank y'all for your time and let everyone else get their chance to speak, and it'd be great to see y'all again. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate to speak is Michelle Sue, followed by Scott Fellman, Jacqueline Hall, and Crowley, and Nicole.
Hi, I'm Michelle Sue. Thanks for having me. I'm interested in being on the school board as a parent.
Michelle, could you just go a little bit closer? I think I'm having trouble here to the mic.
Well, it can move toward you too.
Oh yeah, you can move it towards. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now? I'm Michelle Shu. And I'm interested in being on the school board as a parent, a community member, an advocate, and a volunteer. I've been a library course coordinator. I've worked in primary school libraries. I have also been a librarian in a Polytechnic Institute. I've been an Egan Warming Center volunteer since 2018. And I just started supporting Acorn Community Cafe this year. I volunteered in the library at Spencer Butte Middle School when my son attended, and I was at the same time the Aspire coordinator at my daughter's high school. I had the opportunity to use my language and cataloging skills when the Chinese Immersion School moved its collection to their permanent location at Kennedy Middle School at the beginning of this school year. That was a fun project. I am in alignment with our school district's values to center students for the good of the community. I dug around in the 4J website and I really liked this sentence, or these few sentences. We create an environment in our district that is demanding but nurturing, rigorous but compassionate, safe but risk-taking. We foster both independence and collaboration and require accountability as well as involvement from everyone. It's inspiring. These values are an incentive for me to commit my time and energy to our school district. I value student voices, and I approach issues with an open mind. I can contribute my skills in research and analysis to support a collective process. I see 4J as a district which can creatively adapt and grow to best serve our students. As a daughter of immigrants, I dedicate much of my time and self-development to promoting equity. It's encouraging to me that 4J already has an established equity committee. The district had the foresight years before the Senate bill to start a conversation around equity in the community. I'm enthusiastic to maintain forward momentum on issues of equity. I am hopeful after a difficult 2 years of navigating the chaos of the pandemic. The school board is currently in the midst of fulfilling one of its most impactful responsibilities, the selection of a permanent superintendent. We can gain from what has been learned in these challenging times. I would love the opportunity to be a part of a team that shapes our children's school environment. It's clear that education has a profound effect on how we show up in community. Thank you for serving our school district, and I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Thank you. The next candidate, Scott Fellman, is coming forward, will be followed by Jacqueline Hall, Daniel Crowley, and Edgar Ted.
Good evening, thank you everybody. I hope that you have a chance in all of those 37 written applications to take a look at the details that I've included in there. And I just want to focus on a couple of key things, some technical skills that I hope I would bring to the board that would help accomplish board goals, and then a little bit about passion and why I want to do this. Recently retired after 25 years serving the Eugene community with the Eugene Police Department. I started that job as a volunteer, finished it up after doing everything basically almost that you can do there. And as I was getting close to retirement, I was thinking about running for the board, because education is something that I have always been passionate about, whether I was a kid or as a parent now, or as a possible educator in the future. I have prior experience on boards, both as a board member on 2 prior boards and also as staff to boards. I have seen what happens when a board works not very well and how time runs on and on and on and people get frustrated. And I have seen what happens when a board is really functioning highly and really gets a lot of stuff done, and how much impact that has. And I have learned from those experiences things that I can do as a board member to help the fellow members of the board achieve that high performance state. One of the things that I have heard from past board members that I have served with is that they really appreciate how I help keep things focused, keep things moving along, and that when people get frustrated and get stuck, that I still have that energy, that patient persistence to keep things moving and help support the group in moving forward. Whether that's through doing community outreach to get input on issues from experts or subject matter experts, whether it's taking a break when we're exhausted, or whether it's refocusing a discussion. In particular, in my experience with the police department, working with boards and elected officials, I've come to really appreciate the sacred trust that people who have oversight of tax dollars carry. Not just the way that it's described in state law, but how important it is on a very personal level for all of us who are paying taxes, that are going to a service, especially one as important as public education, and the need to make sure that the values of the community that we are serving are reflected in the policies that we implement. The way that we write something so that the people who are our experts, our career path instructors and professional staff, can implement those values that we want to see represented in their work, and that we're including because that's what we're hearing from the community that we are appointed or elected to represent, really end up in their systems and in their practices. And then we then take the time to go back once in a while and make sure that those things are working well and for opportunities to improve. Diversity. Diversity is a really important thing in government, and it's something that in this society we have struggled with and continue to struggle with, as I'm sure you're all aware. I only bring the experiences that I have, right? I have lived in another country, I have experienced another education system, I have had to learn another language, I have experienced discrimination in places where I don't appear to be a white male. I know a little bit about that, but more importantly, what I can bring to this community is a deep to this board, is a deep understanding from serving this community for 25 years. I know every neighborhood. I know every protected group. I know or have interacted with people who have experienced everything from physical violence to emotional violence to mental health challenges to drug abuse to growing up in a difficult family to growing up with lots of privilege to the point where they kind of get off track anyway. And I know where to look when an issue comes up that requires input from a group that might not be represented, to go and talk to those people and say, hey, we're looking at an issue that impacts you, and we want to make sure that what you have to say and that what you need is reflected. Come tell us about it. I have experience with helping to resolve conflicts, I have experience with outreach, and I have experience working with public information staff to get board messages out to the public that let people know what we're doing, how we're accomplishing their goals and honoring their trust in allocating and spending their dollars and making sure that we're meeting their values, and to gather that information together. Passion. I love education. One of the things that I'm also looking into as a post-retiring is teaching, hopefully at the college level. Maybe it'll be somewhere else, maybe it won't be, but I love being in the classroom. It's just the best. And public education is the most important government service that we have in this country. It is the equalizer. It is the place where people who are getting left behind and lost have an opportunity, maybe the only opportunity, to get a little focused attention to help them overcome whatever the challenges are that they're facing. So here's my little vision for where I'd really like to see things go. In the short term, or sorry, is that 30 seconds?
You're really close, so you probably wrap it up here. It's 5 minutes and 18 seconds, sorry.
What if we could get enough money to make small classes, pay teachers so much that leaving isn't an issue and attracting balanced professional people isn't the problem? And what if we could do that? That's not the immediate concern. You all know what the immediate concerns are. But a board is in a position to also drive things forward to a bigger future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Jacqueline Hall, followed by Danny Crowley and Ross and Marianne Senhouse. Good evening. Can you hear me fine? My name's Jacqueline Hall, and I'm willing to volunteer to help out the school board. First, I want to start off by thanking all the teachers, board members, administrators, and parents for their patience and hard work in facilitating and navigating education of our posterity, of our children, over the last couple of years. I have 2 children who attend a 4J high school. It has not been easy for any of us. Mostly, however, I'd like to thank the kids, as they say, they kept on going to the best of their abilities in light of severe challenges, fears, and losses. My heart has been with them through this difficult time. I'd like to share a little bit about myself and what's important to me. I grew up very poor in a trailer in a rural state. I grew up with few resources and with 2 parents who were generational victims of World War II. They were not well equipped to be parents. Most public school teachers who were involved in my education were good, well-intentioned, and well-versed at what they taught. A couple, one in particular, whom I recall should never have been allowed to teach. I am sure we all have a story like that. But a few were exceptional with a capital X. They thought outside the box. They were dynamic, intelligent, and funny. My government teacher would argue both sides of a topic, and you never knew what side of the aisle he was on politically. My favorite science teacher was strict, had a dry sense of humor, and knew his stuff. He didn't put up with malarkey. My art teacher, whom I adored, saved my life and encouraged me to better myself, no matter how painful the path of self-reflection. If it weren't for public school teachers, I would not be here right now. Because of public school and the public education I received, I was able to acquire 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's. I'm thankful that student loans were available at the time. If it weren't for that option, I would never have been able to complete my current level of education. I'm the first person in my family to have earned their master's. I was fortunate to have loan repayment programs available to me as a healthcare worker, and I wish our society had other avenues for loan repayment and apprenticeships on the public level, so our 4J students could plan their careers and post-secondary paths, knowing they can acquire work and will successfully work off their post-secondary debt in a reasonable amount of time if they so desire. Currently, I work in mental health, serving our community's most vulnerable populations, and the appreciation for a well-funded, well-run school district is very important to me. It is indispensable and integral to our democracy. Our democratic republic cannot survive if we do not have an educated citizenry to guide the country going forward. And that's why I'm applying for this volunteer position. Simply, I want to help. Board members make a difference in the quality of education their district provides to its students. I believe I have several favorable characteristics. I'm a good listener. I tend to think outside the box and bring a breadth of knowledge to the table regarding the realities of people's lives because of my career and life experience, of the struggles kids go through when their parents have drug problems and they aren't parented, when they aren't housed, when they don't have proper nutrition, or they lack an adult who remains grounded and helps them stay on track with their studies. I have an understanding that there is a difference between oversight and micromanaging, and that school-specific data is important. I have appreciation for the varied stakeholders involved in schools and school district matters. I understand that though we may have personal positions on various topics, what is most helpful is to find the common interests we all have and work towards a solution to fit the highest number of needs possible, knowing we cannot please all the people all of the time. I believe if we seek social justice and well-balanced education for all people, we can anticipate a healthful and supportive society for our citizenry in general terms, one that fosters growth and the flow of humanness and healthful living for the long run, one that is inclusive of everyone's work, one that empowers kids to be their authentic selves. I believe the collaborative work of the board is to bridge concerns, solutions, and understanding between district administrators, parents, teachers, and students to promote sustainable education in our area. My desire to help out is authentic, and I want to thank you for your time and listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate is Andrew Ross, followed by Harry Singer, and then just Keerti.
There was some of the things, are you Danny?
I'm sorry, Danny Crowley, I missed one, my apologies.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Danny Crowley, and I'm very glad to be here. My husband and I have lived in the Santa Clara neighborhood for 36 years. We've raised 4 children here and have owned and operated our business in Eugene for over 30 years. It's truly wonderful to see so many people wanting to become involved and to see all of you here today. First of all, I want to let you know I'm not a professional speaker, negotiator, or organizer. I'm a parent that is passionate about 2 things. Every student is a future citizen and will enter our community as a competent young person or as a student that has fallen through the cracks and been pushed along in the system. We must ensure that each student has a solid foundation of skills to enter adulthood and workforce and whatever else they want to do. Second, every single student has talents and abilities to offer,
And every one of them should be seen as important contributing human beings that has incredible potential and can flourish with the right approaches that are strengths-based. I believe there is great hope for our students and our community, only if we make a major shift away from teaching to the test scores or teaching to the graduation rate. We need and must get back to teaching to the individual child and their personal learning styles in a strength-based model, making learning fun, exciting, and engaging, encouraging alternative resources. The last of our children is almost 18, is a senior at Eugene Online Academy, with his homeschool being North Eugene High School. Since we entered North Eugene High School, I've had to be a full-time advocate for and alongside him. He is now learning how to advocate for himself, ask for what he needs, and has stepped into the Future Build program, which is a pilot program coordinated by the 4J Future Build program coordinator of Career and College Readiness and the CTE Construction and Technical Education Department, along with Lee Konofsky at Lane Community College and a local construction company. Our son is now finally thriving. He entered high school with a 504 and an official diagnosis of ADHD, anxiety, auditory processing disorder, and Asperger's. After some very difficult months, he was tested for and received an IEP, which is an individual education plan. The collaboration with his team of SPED advisors, specialists, and general education teachers was a huge learning curve for me. I would like to help other parents learn how to advocate for their students, no matter what the issue is. And there's a huge gap between our 4J educators and our general educators. And I'd like to see that bridged in a lot more resources. I have immersed myself and become a student of my student and taken it upon myself to truly understand learning differences and neurodiverse thinkers. I've enjoyed sharing what I've learned with all the educators from various schools and other parents that truly are at a loss of how to support and help their kids that are struggling or falling through the cracks. There are at least 30 to 40% of our school population that are affected by some sort of learning difficulty, anxiety, depression, and of course with COVID, it's just skyrocketed, and I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. On the 4J equity lens, however, I'm noticing that disability is 9th on the list. And I'd like to see that get a little bit more bumped up. I have a wealth of in the trenches experiences and wealth research programs and resources that I would love to share with our school district. I know that counselors, administrators, or teachers work very digitally to provide for their students. They just don't know what they don't know. And we need, and our children deserve, a paradigm shift in our system and a revolutionary new lens to understand our students better. Educating ourselves about the latest and most beneficial ways to approach and connect with our students is the key to successful students and ultimately productive, contributing citizens of our community. One of my ideas is to produce a one-page profile snapshot, which would be with every student starting perhaps in kindergarten, which would just say what people appreciate about me.
Ms. Crowley, I'm sorry, we're about 30 seconds over. Do you think, could you maybe just finish this thought?
I'll dial it up.
Thank you.
So I just think that we need to do a little bit more in shoring up our children that are having these difficulties. And I have the means and the materials that I'd love to share with you. And I am just wanting to be a part of this community and bring all that I've learned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the next speaker is Andrew Ross. He'll be followed by Harry Singer, Jessica Mandel, Katina Johnston.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Ross. I have lived in Eugene since 1991, own my own home in the Harlow neighborhood since 2007. I have a special needs daughter with a very rare chromosome disorder who required a very special individualized IEP to get through 4J. I also have a son who is in Bertha Holt right now in 4th grade, I watched him navigate from in-person school to all online school to the online academy for the first half of this year. And now he's in-person once again and thriving. Good job, all of you, to the extent you contributed to that. I got my law degree from the University of Oregon, go Ducks. That was in 1994. I spent 24 years in town as a practicing attorney, 15 years as the owner of my own solo practice, so I've not only been an attorney, but a small business owner in this town. My specialty included family law and criminal defense, and during my time, I met over and over again many young people who had not made it through the school system, broken, dysfunctional families, drug use, involvement in the criminal justice system. I helped these people to the extent that I could. I never know how successful I am because the ones I succeeded with, I rarely ever saw again. Once in a blue moon, I would encounter one of them on a bus and they'd say, "Remember me, Mr. Ross?" And they'd credit me with having finally got their GED, got their kids back, got sobriety, especially their GED. When I talked to people, that was the one thing they longed to do, was to go back and get high school equivalency. Let us have a district in which there are fewer people who are over 18 and longing to get their GEDs. What I bring to this board, if you should have me among you, is my background in the law and conflict resolution, has extensive experience in being required to, not that I didn't want to, but being required to listen to a very diverse population, heavily weighted towards the most marginalized ones who need the most attention and feel the least trust towards people in authority in general. I have had experience explaining and assisting in navigating a complex government bureaucracy to a wide variety of people. And why I came here, why I submitted this application, I believe that the American education system is under attack right now. School boards are under attack right now, not necessarily this one in particular, but you have seen the horror stories. I've seen them too, and if you have me among you, I will be prepared to vigorously defend a curriculum that is scientifically justifiable and in which all students, not just the privileged majority, have access to biographies and stories that reflect who they are and make them feel like persons of dignity, as worthy of acceptance as anyone else. The last promise I'll make is that if anyone comes to the board and wants to challenge a book that is in our schools, I will read it, and I will be prepared to discuss that book with that person. In fact, I'm doing that right now. This one is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I very much recommend it. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. The next speaker is Harry Singer. I do believe we are having technical difficulties with our timer, so if you would please watch in the corner to the left. Lisa Fiorba will share a sign at 30 seconds, and I'm up when we reach 5 minutes. So Mr. Singer will be followed by Jessica and Katina and Nicole. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, Chair Newman and 4J board members. First, I'd just like to give my thanks to everybody here and with us online who applied. It's not easy to throw your hat in the ring and put yourself out there, and so I much appreciate it, and especially to Michelle. My children go to Chinese immersion school, so thanks for your help. And I too have volunteered at Egan Warming Center. It's a small token of what we can do for our community. But my name is Harry Sanger, and I think of myself as a pragmatic member of our community. At times, I desire unachievable outcomes, but I prefer to put my energy into practical realities. In this vein, the board cannot expend superfluous energy trying to micromanage the district and achieve utopia for everyone. What the board can do is continue to develop policies that embrace fairness and equality so that everyone feels like they have a chance to succeed. The board can promote a competitive environment where both students and teachers strive for excellence and possess a determination to outdo each other, setting difficult goals, accomplishing those goals, and then setting new goals to continue to move the district's achievements forward. We shouldn't encourage the mediocrity that has plagued Oregon school districts trying to find an identity. We know who we are. We're Eugene. We're quirky. We embrace diversity. We do things a little bit differently. But we also desire outcomes where our students excel as they transition to adulthood, where they are equipped with the tools necessary to succeed in higher learning, and where they possess drive and ethics in the workforce, mastering their professions and building the next generation of entrepreneurship that we need to ensure a resilient future for our community. We don't want to box in creative thinking with our own limitations, but instead channel the breadth of community interest into our learning environment and continue to innovate and go beyond expectations. I fear that we are too close to succumbing to the very dangers in society that children need to be shielded from. The dangers of bullying and peer pressure aren't unique to our youth. Many of us can recall our own school years and the tendency for everything to become a popularity contest. We need to be the adults in the room and set a positive example for our children and for the entire community to look up to. Instead of what is popular today, we need to focus on what is important and necessary to teach our children. Children should be the focus of the board, not teachers, not staff, and not ourselves. There may be times where sacrifices are necessary for the latter to achieve success for the former. Sometimes it seems that parents are trying too hard to be friends with their kids instead of parents. We need to remember that children under 18 are still children and are not always mature enough to grasp complex consequences of their choices. We should encourage parents to be involved in the decisions their children are making. A successful board looks to partner with parents, not replace them or remove families from the decision-making process. We need to listen to what the community is telling us and take better measure of the diversity of input received. We ought to engage in open and welcoming dialogue, not only amongst ourselves, but amongst the entire 4J community. And this is a commitment that I will make if appointed to the board. If you put your trust in me, I will work to ensure that we select a superintendent that shares a focus on not only academic excellence, but creating an environment where excellence in all aspects is the expectation and not the exception. I will encourage us to take stock of our nutritional services and ensure that we are laying a foundation for a lifetime of good dietary habits. Likewise, as another applicant mentioned, I will encourage movement as a core focus of the school day and not an afterthought. I will encourage the board to evaluate the role of technology in education and whether we need to pull back from the pandemic's increased reliance on digital tools in the classroom. I will encourage that we make a difficult and honest evaluation of how we can better meet the special education priorities of over 2,000 4J students. Finally, I will encourage that parents return as volunteers to their children's schools as partners in a thriving Eugene School District 4J. Based on the conversations in the community, I expected significant interest tonight, but this reality has exceeded my expectations. I am encouraged by the depth of experience offered by my peers in this application process and would be honored if selected to move forward with you. Thank you for your time this evening and for the dedication and personal sacrifices you have made for our community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jacqueline Hall, who will hopefully correct that pronunciation. She'll be followed by Katina Johnston, Nicole Winther, and Edgar Ted Rodriguez.
Hi there. You're close. It's Jessica Madai. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. And I would like to echo what a few of my peers have said about just the quality of the people who are stepping up and just being appreciative that our community has a lot of excitement and energy and concern for what happens with our students, so way to go, Eugene. My name's Jessica Madai. I live in Southwest Eugene with my husband Paul and our 2 greyhounds and our cat. My 2 kids both graduated from the U of O, and my son and daughter-in-law live in Eugene and just about 5 houses down from us, and my daughter lives in Portland now. I've been a resident in the district since 2005. Some background on me and my connection to education. I've had over 30 years of experience in education management in both nonprofit and for-profit environments. I recently retired after about 15 years working as the Chief Membership Officer at ISTE, the International Society for Technology and Education, here in Eugene. ISTE, as you may know, works with educators to help them use technology to innovate teaching and learning and accelerate good practice. Prior to ISTE, I worked for a company that provided soft skills and organization development training, and another organization that produced teacher professional development content. Earlier in my career, I was a regional director for Kauffman Educational Centers, where I was responsible for managing staff and overseeing facilities in 12 locations across 3 states. So I have some understanding of the challenges of running systems and implementing changes and responding quickly to issues that arise on a day-to-day basis in multiple sites. I think my experience though at ISTE is the most relevant to the board's work. As the head of membership, I had the opportunity to meet hundreds of teachers and district leaders around the country and learned about some of the challenges they faced and the solutions they came up with to address the pressing issues in their classrooms, in their schools, and their districts. As senior staff, I reported to the CEO and interacted extensively with the board of directors, attending and presenting at almost every meeting. Over time, I've served as a staff liaison to various board committees, including board elections and appointments committee and the diversity committee. I also served a 2-year term as a member of a client advisory board to a major cities convention and visitors bureau. So what skills can I offer to this board? So in my work, I've gained some specific skills and experiences that I think may be useful to the board. They include strengths in collaborative leadership. I've led many diverse staff and volunteer teams, and been a member of several executive teams. I'm a creative problem solver. I've helped to build annual strategic plans and multi-million-dollar budgets. I was instrumental in launching diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and from that work, I'm deeply aware that implementing change around important social issues requires ongoing commitment and focus and humility and respectful open dialogue. I can see both the big picture, and I also know how important it is to respond quickly to one-off issues as they arise. So I'd like you to consider me for a position on this board because education has been a focus and a passion of mine throughout my life. Everyone here understands that great public schools are essential to strong communities. I believe they're also foundational to our democracy. I'd like to do my part to ensure that we have the highest quality schools that support students from all backgrounds, all socioeconomic levels, all abilities and preferences. And I think we must maintain focus on nurturing students' love of learning and encourage them to continue to be active learners, critical thinkers, and engaged citizens their whole lives. We've been through a very tough time the last few years, and the impacts of the pandemic and polarized politics. This has been the hardest time in my lifetime. As a community member and a concerned citizen, I'm also alarmed to see school boards across the country on the front lines of culture wars. All the disruption, isolation, stress, and economic upheaval resulting from the past few years has impacted everyone. And it's been especially hard on our children and their mental and emotional health. It's been brutal on our teachers. I can't think of another time when it's been more important to come together to focus on what's best for the kids, our teachers, and families in the community. I've worked in many environments where I've needed to bring people from very different perspectives together to come to consensus and compromise in order to move forward. Now that I'm retired, I have the time and capacity to contribute a set of skills and experiences that I hope can be of service to the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate is Katina Johnston, followed by Nicole Winther, Edgar Ted Rodriguez, and then Misty Rose Frost.
there. I'm Katina. A little bit about me, I have 2 adult children that were in the 4J School District, 2 stepchildren that I helped raise, and more recently, me and my partner of 10 years, we took a 1,000-mile one-way, or round trip, to get his great nephew out of a really, trying situation. So he's at Spencer Gate right now. And I guess the main reason that I'm here is because I'm shocked at the lack of a bullying curriculum, something that's there to protect students. He is a person of color. He's been attacked for his sexuality. He's been called a wall hopper. He's been shoulder shoved. He's been flipped off at the bus stop. And without getting into too much, detail, this kid needs a break already. And I myself, I grew up in the projects in Eastern Washington in the 80s, and it was pretty traumatic. I was bullied for several years, pretty severely, severe enough where I do have PTSD. So I'm a pretty strong advocate for people that are being bullied and are disenfranchised. I worked at Lane ESD for several years, including Lane School. My specialty was working with people with behaviors, developing ISPs and IEPs, different types of behavior programs, and I was really good at it. So that's kind of my forte. I was also a house mother in Tucson when I was pregnant with my son. He's gonna be 26, so that's a while ago. And these kids, were on reservations. They had, a lot of challenges. It was a lockdown facility, a lot of violence, and just a lot of trauma. So I always kind of felt like I was the person that stood up for the underdog. I'm a homeless advocate. I too volunteered at Egan, and I have a trunk full of homeless supplies that I tend to hand out every season. And I guess I just feel like, the situation, even if I don't make it on the board, my main reason for being here is because I am so perturbed by the lack of accountability. Situation happened yesterday where he had some homophobic slur thrown at him and, calling him a woman, this and that, and then there was a Korean girl in class and, they're doing, this, and when the teacher's out of the room. And I'm so proud of him for standing up and saying no, because he could very easily turn into that bully, and shortly after that, there was an African-American student. She got, some stuff thrown at her, not the N-word, but close. And I just feel like, what is happening right now? We live in Eugene, we're supposed to be diverse, we're supposed to be accepting of other people, but what I'm seeing is absolutely shocking. And even if I don't make it on the board, I am begging someone to please find a policy, get a curriculum in place to try to handle this. There should be zero tolerance for this. I've talked to the vice principal and principal of his school. We've had meetings. I just had a call with her today. It's just ongoing and it's draining. And this is hard enough, personally, just having, my great nephew here, my daughter just finally moved out last weekend. I'm technically an empty nester. So this is already challenging for my family and for me personally. And I just want to give this kid a chance, and it's not just him, it's everyone else that's being, under attack. Like I said, just yesterday, those 2 other people, and I just feel like, something really needs to be done. Because when I was growing up, nobody advocated for me. Not my mom,
not my dad. I had to stand up for myself. I had to learn to physically fight just to protect myself. I had to call the principal and say, hey, can you give me a different bus? So I know we're wrapping up here, but I guess I just, if, you know, like I said, if anything, like even if I don't make it on the board, I am really hoping that the board will take this seriously, because it's a really serious issue, and I hope that that gets dealt with. And I appreciate your time, everyone. And
thank you.
Good luck to everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next speaker is Nicole Winther, and following that, we'll move to some speakers on Zoom.
Hello, I'm Nicole. I don't know any of you. I'm new to Eugene, so I don't have the community experience that a lot of my peers have. I want to be a part of the community. We moved here for the schools. My husband and I, we have 2 young children, one in 2nd grade and one about to enter kindergarten. So you are stuck with me for the next 20 years, whether or not I make it on the board. I am very, very interested in learning what the board is all about and being a part of my children's education. The thing that concerns me and brought me here today is that my children have fallen behind, or my daughter who's in school has fallen behind because of the COVID. And I think some children are needing extra help, and I want to get the test scores back up. I want to get the test scores, I want Eugene to be at the top. And I want learning to be fun, like Tiffany said, it should be fun. And there's a lot of different ways to learn. I have a left-handed child, I have a bright child, and they don't learn the same. They learn very differently. So the attention to all the children's needs and the diversity of their needs is very important to me. I know I don't have a lot more to say, really. Just that, thank you for allowing me to be here. I wanted to come and meet you all. I wanted to make sure that there was enough applicants for these openings, and there certainly are. So best of luck to all of you. And just again, my focus is really on the children. Not any political aspect of anything, but just the children, advocating for them. My children are students, and I want all children to have the best opportunities. And I think everybody can be a superstar if they have the right opportunities, and I just definitely want to advocate for them. And I'll be here with you all on or off the board for the next 20 years. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have a few candidates who are joining us on Zoom. The next will be Edgar Ted Rodriguez. He's coming in as a panelist now. We should see him shortly. Mr. Rodriguez, will you please turn on your camera and microphone? You can begin your statement to the board. I see the timer going for showing your time coming up, and this speech will 3 to 5 minutes. Hello.
Hello. Sorry about that technical difficulty. Can you hear me all right, everybody? My name is Edgar Ted Rodriguez. Maybe some of you have met me before. I was attached to the state of Oregon during COVID. My job was to go around and talk to the school board members and see how they were going to handle the new CRT laws. You might have not spoken to me, maybe some members of my team. It was an interesting investigation. I myself am a sociologist, experimental sociologist at OSU. I love my job. I've been an educator now for 10 years. My family came to Eugene in the mid-'80s. They have a whole bunch of restaurants here all over the town. And I've had the pleasure of meeting many, many people through those restaurants while I was getting my education. Most of those people tell me the same thing that the previous candidates all have explained. problems with diversity, bullying, curriculum activities, too much time on tablets during COVID. That's a newer issue. And it forced me to apply for the school board. I figured it was the best thing to do. With all the experience that I have and I've done, it made sense. One of the biggest things that I have seen that a lot of people have already talked about, and I had to, well, I wouldn't say the pleasure, it was more of a conundrum in the time doing an investigation with everything, is that 4J system is a very good district, but it is lacking. The diversity part is there. It's there. It really is. The problem is the school district itself does not have the right people to articulate the problem to the students. My nephew goes to Buena Vista. My other nephews go to Churchill. And during that time, I've had a lot of conversations with them. They say that there's a lot of missing facts when they hear it when it comes to diversity, curriculums, and progress in the college. The courses are good. The school system structure is very good, in my opinion. I've had the time to talk to some of the principals. I've also had time to talk to the police forces around here to figure out what's going on. And I agree with a lot of the previous candidates. There is issues when it comes to the judicial system. And those two school areas come up. It's mainly Churchill and North Eugene. And from my experience looking at that, we have the ability as a whole. If I were to be on the board, I'm not expecting to be on the board. This is mainly, civic duty. I am dipping into new things. I think we could fix the problem. I really do think that the problem in the district itself is all these new mandates being handed down by Salem that aren't being articulated correctly. If I remember correctly, there was a thing in the Eugene Weekly that I had to look at, and I had to report back to Salem. I believe one of your members on the board replied to the superintendent. It's issues like that that have to be repaired, and they have to be repaired correctly. It's not because the school board is dysfunctional. It's because the school board doesn't have the correct outlets to function in the mode they should. Throughout my time working with other school districts, I've learned that the function of equality, equity, there's a big difference. And most people don't know the difference. They just don't. And those functions get lost. I hear a lot of students that I've dealt with, what's the difference? Why do we need diversity? Why is diversity being forced on us? Why isn't there representation of all the boards? Why isn't there more teachers? And it's a hard question to tell them. The explanations are textbook, and some people just don't know. School is hard as it is. Many areas that I've had the time looking into are moving into getting their schools into trades. They're working hard to do this. That's something I believe that needs to be instituted. I believe that all the students need to be represented. I believe that superior education, although not fundamental, can cause a lot of stress, but it's there. The 4J system does have it. Again, it's all about how it's being directed and who is directing it accordingly. Moving on from that, I do believe that if we were to implement new ideas and concepts brought in, the board would function a lot better if we had a timetable, a process in line, and most of it just needs to comes down to communication. Finally, during my ending time of everything, COVID forced a lot of people to do things they didn't need to. I believe school districts and the boards got a bad rap, and that's it. That's my time's up. I apologize. I was starting to ramble into my facts there. Thank you anyways. I appreciate your time. Nice meeting you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. The next speaker is Misty Rose Frost. She'll be followed by Speaker Lee Graham, the person we're on the agenda. Ms. Frost is coming in as a panelist now, and when she joins, she'll turn on her camera and speak to her.
Hi, can you hear me, see me? Good to see you all today. I'm just going to move my notes to the front here. Ooh, a little bit nervous, even though I feel like I'm with some friends here. Good to see you all. Ooh. Okay, yes, Misty Rose Frost, and yes, my parents were hippies. My father is also an enrolled member of the Crow tribe of Montana. I was born in Billings, which is just outside the Crow Reservation. I spent many of my days roaming around on the Crow Res, as we say, and I'm very familiar with tribal customs and values. In the 5 minutes that I have, it's kind of a complicated summary of who I am, but I'm going to do the best I can here. Okay. Yeah, it's always been challenging for me to answer this question. I am multicultural and multiracial, white presenting woman living with ADHD and dyslexia. I'm a mother of a 4J school student, and I'm currently working at 211 Info as a COVID information specialist. I've attended Lane Community College and the University of Oregon. So I'm a product of this here community for sure. And I'm hoping to bring all of the skills and knowledge that I've learned from our amazing educational institutions to this board. I was also on the board of El Rapa for a term that ended last year. I'm currently on the board of directors for River Road Community Organization, and this would be my second term. During my first term, I established the Emergency Preparedness Committee and one of two founding members of the Social Justice Committee at River Road. We established these two committees with the equity being the foundation of the work that we do. And I am proud to say that. And I am also proud to know that this board also takes equity very seriously, as it is one of our the most important, I feel, of our values that we need to focus on. When I was 6 years old, my mother moved my sister and I from Montana to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, where I lived until I was 16. And my stepfather, my Mexican stepfather, Javier, he was very involved and active with the Huichol tribe of Nayarit. And we were very fortunate to have families from the Huichol tribe come stay with us during my childhood while they sold their beautiful art. And so I value, again, Indigenous contributions and knowledge, and hope to see more of that knowledge and for their participation moving on, continue and to move forward. Because I feel a lot of Indigenous teachings and values can save us from a lot of our current struggles right now, with our sense of separatedness, our need to heal the planet and each other. As some say, the future is Indigenous. ADHD and dyslexia, I'm a product of the 80s and 90s when there was not a whole lot of understanding about these learning differences. I say differences and not disability because I've got other superpowers. I may flip my bees and get distracted by something happening outside the window, but I'm also very flexible and can problem solve, see things from outside the box, and come up with creative solutions that are equitable. I also, in my work history, everything that I've done in my life has always been to help and support my community. During my time at Lane Community College, I worked as an enrollment support. I helped incoming new students and current students enroll in classes and fill out their FAFSA forms, because I experienced those walls, those boundaries, and overcoming, trying to get back into school is very difficult. And so I took that role very seriously, and I'm proud of that work.
Misty, we're almost at 6 minutes. Whoops.
Oh my goodness. Okay. And I will wrap this up by saying I also was a paralegal at the law offices of Lourdes Sanchez, helping Spanish-speaking workers seek justice in their work injuries. And I will continue to support folks in education and justice. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Misty. Our next speaker is Rhonda Giandalia. Is Ms. Giandalia in the room? We will keep looking for her to arrive. We will go next to Jackson Kellogg, followed by Daniel Patrick Isaacson. Both are on Zoom and will be coming in one by one as panelists. Mr. Kellogg is first. Welcome, Mr. Kellogg. We'll start a timer for your 3 to 5 minutes to begin now. Thank you.
Great, thank you. My name is Jackson Kellogg, and I'm applying for appointment to the school board because I care deeply about the children and families of Eugene. I'm the parent of 2 4J students. My 8-year-old son is a student at Charlemagne. He's in 3rd grade. And my 12-year-old son is at Roosevelt. He's in 6th grade. The past 2 years have been really hard for everyone. We've all struggled with the disruptions of the pandemic, and having the kids at home every day for a year was really challenging and exhausting for both the parents and for us. It was tough. And I'm sure this has been a very tough year for parents who were unable to supervise their kids, because it took a lot of supervision just to get them to do their online work. So I don't know how other parents did this, because my wife and I were able to spend a lot of time with them. Teachers face incredible hardship, and I think this is a time when we really need strong institutions. So in elementary school, I was a special needs student. I know the extra help I got in reading really made a big difference in being successful in school and in college and graduate school. I know I wouldn't be the successful businessman I am today and be successful in life if I hadn't had 2 really caring, skilled, and very patient, I have to say, special ed teachers back in elementary school many years ago. I'm so grateful to them. And I think schools must work to support every type of learner. All children deserve the access to the resources they need to be successful in school and life. And my wife is originally from Kyrgyzstan and came to America as an immigrant. And I've seen firsthand how being in the minority can be really challenging, and how important it is to feel valued. And I think if education is going to be truly inclusive, all students need to feel like they belong, regardless of who they are or where they came from. It's really important. I believe in this country, diversity is our greatest strength that we have. And over the past year, I've been watching the school board meetings online, and thank you all for your service. The board is the partner of the superintendent, and I want to join the other leaders on the board to attract and hire the best superintendent candidate to come and work in this district. It's really important. A superintendent who will advance the goals of diversity, equity, and access. We need a strong leader who will be a powerful advocate for social justice and work really hard to close the achievement gap. You know, research shows that top management has a really big effect on learning outcomes, and we've got to get this hire right. It's so important to hire the right person. So I want to work with the elected members of the school board, if I'm appointed, to really listen to their points of view and consider what they have to say. I want to learn a lot from everyone. My goal is to help build consensus, and I want to have the board work effectively. That's more important to me than getting my way. So I know if I'm appointed, I'm going to be on the losing side of some votes. And that's okay. I want to support the majority so that the school district can function and deliver results for all the children of Eugene. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next candidate is Daniel Patrick Isaacson, joining us on Zoom and coming in as a panelist now. We have another few speakers who may or may not be present. We did hear in the 4 o'clock hour that received later from the speaker who was not present at the time she was to speak. The second speaker was ready, and she had a family need and was not able to attend. She apologized for her absence, and her application is still in there for consideration. So, Mr. Isaacson, should we join us as a panelist now?
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Great. I will try to be brief so that the Oscar music doesn't play me off. Thank you very much to the board, our amazing staff, passionate teachers, and of course, the students enrolled within the 37 schools of Eugene School District 4J. I especially want to thank each of you who I've had the pleasure of speaking with and meeting to learn from your own experiences, as it's helped me form the basis of my decision to seek this seat. I'm here tonight as the result of the very system I seek appointment to. I've had many accomplishments in my life that I'm proud of, but none of them would be possible if it were not for the opportunities afforded to me through public education. Mrs. Daniels being a counselor when my parents split up, Ms. Tippett who taught me about Beethoven, Mr. Williams who taught me to love language and the written word, and many more. I didn't have much growing up. My family struggled often, but I know that from in that struggle, I was bolstered by a system designed for me and not others. Friends and classmates with very similar stories as mine, but with very different outcomes. I often wonder how many good kids never reach their full potential because of this. It's said that in any difficult time, there are always seeds of opportunity. Our opportunity is whether we embrace this truth and reach for those children for whom the starting line remains on the distant horizon. The real problem with lack of equity is that it breaks the connection between effort and reward. This work is not easy. We must ask ourselves more, we must expect more of each other, and we must face our challenges together to triumph over our fears, our prejudices, and ourselves. The path to make our community what it can be requires at its core a synergy between its leaders and we the people, a genuine belief that we can come together to learn from our past to make a better future. As I look at this board and its makeup, as I've spoken with friends and colleagues for whom I deeply respect, and looked at the other great candidates here tonight, I'm confident that housed within this applicant pool lies the talent to make a measurable impact where it's needed. For myself, I'm currently one of your Eugene planning commissioners. I live in the River Road area, thus would help represent North Eugene on this board. I received my bachelor's degree from the U of O, my MPA from the University of Arizona, and taught undergraduate and graduate students in Chicago before moving back to Oregon to start my family. My son is about to start kindergarten this fall, and with him, our family will begin a 13-year relationship with 4J. Most of my volunteer time now is spent in the field of mental health advocacy. I'm the current president of the National Alliance of Mental Illness, Lane County, and the co-chair of the Suicide Prevention Coalition of Lane County. I came to this issue through the loss of a dear friend to mental illness in an officer-involved shooting in 2018. Since then, I have been immersed in where our gaps are, what are the possible solutions, and attempting in whatever way I can to bridge the two. Our most pressing concern in this area remains the disturbingly high rate of self-harm and suicide among our youth in a county where the suicide rate is already 4 times greater than 84% of the counties in the country. We must commit fully to a new vision for our schools, a vision that sees everyone equally, hears everything honestly, and asks us all for something, a vision that stands for every child from every neighborhood, and a vision that honors the commitment teachers make to their craft. This is the ethos we must foster, and it begins with the connection our children have to their school. Money cannot buy it, power cannot compel it, technology cannot create it. Through it all, one word correctly captures the philosophy I bring to every room I enter: curiosity. Our children come into our classrooms curious about the world around them, looking for an elder to impart the wisdom and the wonder of the world around them. It would be a mistake if we ourselves did not show them that their school board is just as curious in all the ways to make their education more meaningful and their experience here more memorable. I'd like to make a request of sorts. As someone who has been connected to teachers his whole life and knows not only the value they bring, but how absent that value of any conversation we as a board have without their insight, I cannot overlook the unmistakable opportunity to appoint one to our board tonight. And with that, I'd like to state publicly my support for Tom David Blarco to serve with us on this board to make as one of the 2 seats being filled. Now that leaves me in a precarious position. While I bring a wealth of experience in mental health advocacy and suicide awareness to the board, topics that have been on the lips of many of you as of late, I believe my appointment would send a powerful message on the importance and the priority of them by you all. But I also understand that this would all come at the expense of a message of equality. Therefore, I leave the latter choice to you and your wisdom, so long as the former is confirmed. We need a teacher to serve on this board, and I would be honored to serve with him and with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Rhonda Gianelli present? Is Shirley Ann Mace present? Jessie James Egan or Amber White? They're also not on Zoom, so we've heard from all of the candidates who are present.
Break time, we've heard from him. Yeah. Okay. How long, like 45 minutes, no? What? I'm gonna go to my car and sleep.
Okay, how long do you guys need?
Back at 7.
Yeah.
Start at 7.
Oh, let's-
you're right, but
We can do it.
you can't start before 7 because we noticed it at 7.
We can't start before 7. So let's start at 7. Yay, okay.
Closing work session.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. The work session is closed. It is 6:42. Sorry,